What is up? Happy whatever day you're watching this. I hope it is a beautiful day. I hope this video finds you safe and healthy. And today I'm going to do kind of my August reading wrap up. I've never done one of these before, so I'm gonna try and do my best. That's all we can do, right? Okay. Great. If you're new here to my channel, welcome. My name is Emily and I like to talk about books. If you are already a subscriber, I love you. I don't know what's in my coffee this morning. That's what this is. I don't know. Before we get started, if you would click like and subscribe, I post a new video at least once every week. You can also find me over on Instagram at emil.yreadsbooks. I'll put it somewhere. Let's get to it. So if you haven't watched my most recent video, I will have it up here above my head. I just did a book review on the book Legend by Marie Lu, and I loved this book. It's about, oh god, it's two perspectives, June and Day. June is a prodigy in this sort of dystopian society, and Day is the most wanted criminal, and their paths cross and chaos ensues, and it was just a really great read. This little synopsis is not going to do it justice. I really recommend looking at my review if you want to know like my full feelings on this book. I gave it 5 stars. It was really awesome and I loved it. This took me just a couple of days to finish. It took me forever to get to this month, but once I started reading it, I loved it. It was so good. I normally have a hard time with switching perspectives because I can never find a difference in the character voice, I guess is the best way to put it. I have a hard time distinguishing between characters if they aren't written very uniquely, and I did not have a problem with the switching perspectives in this book. It was very easy to follow. It was well done. If you've also been watching my recent videos, you know I did a collaboration with my friend Logan and we read Gone Girl together. I have another video coming up of another Zoom that we are doing talking about the end of this book, and this was a wild ride from start to, not from start to finish. About halfway to the finish, there were twists and turns, and how did I say it to my friend? This book was going 95 down the highway, did a U-turn, did a Y turn out of the U-turn, and then did a few donuts on the side of the road before finally getting back on track, before flying off into a cornfield. I don't know. This book was wild. I would probably have to so I haven't been doing Goodreads reviews because I just don't really do that much anymore, unless it's just to keep track of things that I have read recently. So I'm just gonna rate them in this video. Okay, unless you watch my Instagram and you see what I rate them on there. I don't know. So I'm gonna give Gone Girl 4.5 stars out of 5. I took away half a star because the pacing in the beginning was really not what I expected, and it made the beginning really hard to get through. Also, I just hated Nick, and I had a really hard time wanting to root for him in any way because I just hated him. I mean, even at the end, there were some redeeming qualities about him, but the way that he spoke about women and the way that he, it was really hard. And I know you don't have to like a main character for it to be a well-written main character. I totally empathize with that. It is just not something that I necessarily like to read. I don't go out of my way to search for that kind of stuff. The slow burn at the beginning was kind of hard for me to get through. It took me about 70 pages, more or less, to really get excited about the story. Normally that's more than I would give a book to let me get into it. I usually give a book about 50 pages. So good job, Gillian. I'm glad I suffered through it. I'm glad that I sloughed my way through it and that I was able to finish it. I actually really did enjoy it. It was a great book. So highly recommend if you haven't read it yet. And if you don't know anything about it, don't look up anything about it before you read it, because it is so much better if you have no idea what's going to happen. So thank you, Gillian. On a completely different note, I also read So I finished A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then I also finished this month A Court of Mist and Fury, and I have started A Court of Wings and Ruin. So this series by Sarah J. Maas, I was a little nervous about. It was very hyped up, and do I think it lived up to the hype? Kind of. Yes, in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways, I was like, this is just YA fiction, which is fine. I don't know, I like YA fiction. Court of Mist and Fury is the one that I really read this month, that I was like planning on reading this month, and I talked about in my last video. Lots of spicy scenes. Okay, I will say, I think I like A Court of Mist and Fury more than I liked A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I say that because I think that okay, so A Court of Thorns and Roses, kind of a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I would say it's a loose Beauty and the Beast retelling, but A Court of Mist and Fury kind of takes this story that we have created and turns it into something completely in its own league thing, and I really, really, really like where this series is going. Because it's the second book in a series, I don't want to get too far into it because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. I might do a review of the series once I finish all the books. That's what I like to do for a lot of those, so then if you're someone who's read the series, you can like keep up with the whole thing, and this way I don't spoil people who are interested in still pursuing and reading that book. But anyway, without spoiling anything in the book, I really love where Sarah J. Maas is taking it. I like the ending of A Court of Mist and Fury was incredible. I texted my boyfriend, hi Alyssa, if you're watching. I texted my boyfriend right when I finished it, and I was like, I need the next one. I need it now. And I was so upset because I've been getting these books from the library because I can't afford to buy all these books I want to read. I had to wait like 2 weeks for this book to come in from a different library because it was already checked out at mine, and it did not disappoint, I will say. I think I like it way more than I liked A Court of Thorns and Roses. Like, I would give it probably like 4.5 or 5 out of 5 stars. I think I'm too nice when I'm rating books. I would give it 4 out of 5 stars because no book is completely perfect except for maybe Legend and Dear Martin. Like, that's it. So 4 out of 5 stars. It was an excellent read, and I just really like where the story is going. I'm gonna leave it at that, and hopefully if I can do like a full series review, we'll talk about it more then. Okay, moving away from fantasy, we have Once Ghosted, Twice Shy. This is a short little novella. It is exactly 120 pages. I read this in like an hour and a half. It is about 2 queer Black women. It takes place in New York City. And 7 months before the beginning of the book starts, we have Lycotsy. That is how Google told me it was pronounced. In my head, it was Lycotsy. I'm so sorry. And Fabiola are 2 women in Manhattan, and 7 months ago, they kind of had this little fling, and then Fabiola ghosted Lycotsy. This kind of broke her heart, and 7 months later, Lycotsy is on the subway, and she runs into Fabiola, of all people, and they kind of reconnect, and it's just a short romance. So cute. And the perspective switches back and forth between when they first met and then the second time that they're meeting again in New York City. This short 120-page book battles issues on immigration, race, sexuality, love. Wow. And I mean, social media, the way that we talk and interact with other people, I mean, the fact that Alyssa Cole, the author, was able to create such a dynamic and diverse story in 120 pages says so much, and these characters were so lovable. I wish that we had a full novel for this. I wish this was 400 pages and we could delve more into the minds of these characters and how they met and hear more about them. And this was just such an enjoyable read. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars. Literally all great books. I have such a problem. I don't hate books. I don't read books I don't like. I don't know. I'll give it 4 out of 5 stars. I wish we could have delved into these characters more, but I thought it was so well written, and with characters that we don't get to see in literature often, especially not as people that are worthy of love and gentleness and sweetness, and that is all that this book really seems to be to me. So, okay, almost done. Okay, so the last book I finished this month was The Nobodies. This was not in my original video of things that I was planning on reading this month, but long story short, my library started doing every Monday and Tuesday a short little pop-up library where they bring out a bunch of recommended books by the librarians, and you can peruse outside while social distancing and wearing your mask, and you can check out books while you're there. And so I got like 5 or 6 books from this pop-up library, and this was one of them. I wasn't really sure what to expect with it. It just kind of sounded interesting. It's contemporary adult fiction, so it's something I like to read, and so I picked it up. It was pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised. I liked the story. I like stories about writers. I don't know, there's something about that I like the way that they think because I find it very relatable. So basically, the main character's name is Joan, and she is in her 30s, and she has kind of fallen hard on her luck. She lost her job as a journalist, and so now she's living with her parents and her brother, and so she gets a job at a company called Bloom that she is very overqualified for, and she works with a bunch of 20-something-year-olds, and so she feels kind of out of place because she's older than everyone and is just kind of down on her luck. And then she kind of uncovers that she thinks that this business is doing something kind of behind the scenes that is not entirely legal, and so she kind of goes on this expedition to figure out what they're doing. I would give this book 3.5 stars out of 5. I liked the pacing. I thought it was an enjoyable read. However, how to put it, this book was published in 2016, and the protagonist keeps saying, "Oh, I don't understand these millennials, these 20-year-olds, I don't get it, I'm 30-something, what? And how do you explain to this person that at 30 in 2016, they are a millennial? Like, they are a millennial. You're talking about very early Gen Z people." And so, but do you guys remember in 2016 all of that like anti-millennial talk? Like, this book is like a love letter to that. At some point it was like technology, and I remember the 80s, and do you even remember the Thriller dance? Like, I swear, like, that is how this protagonist acts sometimes, and I'm like, I didn't realize you could have a whole personality trait in judging the generation younger than you, while at the same time incorrectly identifying them. I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. But whatever. Overall, though, this book was really enjoyable. I thought the author had a really comedic way of writing. There were points where I was actually laughing aloud when I was reading. It was very funny, very lighthearted. It was a great kind of quick read that was just a very positive experience overall. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that one. And lastly, for what I'm going to talk about in this video is Wicked. I have started this book, and I am enjoying it, but it is a little bit tricky to get through. I'm having a hard time reading this for long periods of time. The way that Gregory Maguire writes in this book, I think, is just, it reminds me of old classic literature, and if you read a lot of classic lit, maybe you'll empathize with the fact that, like, when you're reading certain books, it takes you longer to get through because of the way that it's written, the themes. I don't know what it is exactly, but something about Wicked is, it's hard for me to sit down and just read this, so I have to break it up into chunks. So I have not finished it yet. I'm about a quarter of the way through. Very dark. Very dark. If you are familiar with the musical, don't go into this book thinking that's what this is going to be, because it is not. And I knew that going into it, so I'm excited to see where this all kind of leads and goes. Basically, so far, this whole first section of the book is just about Elphaba's birth and her parents and where she comes from. So it's been really cool to read kind of the entirety of how she was conceived, when, where, how her parents treated her. Her parents were horrible to her, because in the musical you get kind of like 2 minutes in this prologue song that Glinda is singing about how Elphaba was born, but in this we really get to kind of see every little facet of it, and it's been kind of fascinating, and I'm enjoying it, but it is harder for me to get through, and so I am kind of taking my time with this one. I'm hoping to finish it in the next couple of weeks. I have been wanting to read this for forever, so I'm really hoping that I can get through this. And then I wanted to do a comparison video of the book and the musical, so I hope that I can do that soon. Yay! All right. That is all I had for this month. That is 7 books for this month if you count A Court of Thorns and Roses. Yay! I don't know. I don't really have a set goal per month, so just stating the fact that I read 7 books this month is great news for me, and I really enjoyed all of the ones that I read, more or less, so that is cheers to that. I'm hoping to post a video in the next couple of days talking about books that I want to read for September. I also want to do some more recommendations for books for you to read this fall, and books that I'm really looking forward to reading. Keep in touch and we will talk about those soon. My question for today's video is, what is your favorite fall drink? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time.